Breaking news. A Republican congressman, not a retired one, not someone who's not in government anymore. That's much, much easier. A current sitting Republican congressman has called for the impeachment of Donald J. Trump. And not only is he a congressman, he's a Tea Party congressman. It's Justin Amash from Michigan. Let me tell you something. I'm going to give him a world of credit for being principled here. I often call out those Tea Party guys for not acting on principle. And when it comes to, some of their issues, they favor big government, even though they claim to be libertarians, etc. But not on this one. And the way that he did it and his explanation for it were excellent. And so I might disagree with him on everything else. That's okay. Look, as long as people are honest, if we disagree and we disagree a lot and on most of the issues, that's called democracy. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as they're not corrupt and they're being honest. So it appears Justin Amash, for all of his faults and all of the things that we disagree on, is an honest politician. There we go. We've got one. We've got one on the board nationally for the Republicans. So, and by the way, Nancy Pelosi, how does it feel to be outflanked by a Tea Party Republican? When he's more principled than you, and he says we have got to hold the president accountable. So how did he do it? Amash read the whole Mueller report. The reason it took him this long is because he read it, all of his staffers read it, they discussed it, they had debates back and forth, etc., according to his tweets and the statement that he put out today, and they came to the conclusion, they came to many conclusions actually, but the most important one is impeachment is unescapable. They said this is definitely obstruction of justice. And Amash said if it was anyone but the president, we wouldn't be having this conversation at all. Any average American would unquestionably be indicted for obstruction of justice. By the way, the same exact thing I've been saying all along. If it was anyone but the president, they'd be indicted. There'd be no question whatsoever. It's overwhelming evidence. And one of his other conclusions was that Bill Barr, the Attorney General, misled Congress and has misled the American people. He's like, if you look at his 4-page summary conclusions and what he's told Congress, and you read the whole report yourself, it is also an inescapable fact that he misled us. He's like, his conclusions are not what the report says. The report lays out clear, multiple, and overwhelming evidence that the president obstructed justice. And he said, do we have principles or don't we? Because if we don't act now, he said, based on partisanship, well, then what we've done is say, basically, president's above the law. And because of partisanship, we're not overacting, we're underacting. That we're not taking action to actually uphold the Constitution because of where our partisan interests lie. And so I'm not telling you, hey, bless his heart, because he agrees with us or he's going to the left. He's not on the left at all. Go see any of his other policies. In fact, he's further right-wing than a lot of the congressmen are, than most of the congressmen are. I'm telling you because it really is a principled action. And so another thing that he points out, that we point out on the Young Turks all the time, is both the Democrats and the Republicans flip their positions 180 degrees depending on who's in charge and what outcome they want. He's like, well, what happened to issues of character? What happened to issues of upholding the law and obstruction of justice? He's like, the Democrats are on one side, then they're on the other side. And the Republicans the same way. And it's so hypocritical. And he's absolutely right. It's not just on this issue. They do it all the time. Are you in favor of the filibuster or against the filibuster? Are you do you think that we should have a lot of bills or justice blocked or not blocked? I mean, I can go on. And they constantly switch positions. Schumer and McConnell play this game every single Congress. Then they flip sides. And they treat us like we're children. And unfortunately, a lot of the media goes along without calling them out for the obvious hypocrites that they are. So I call it Democratic side nonstop, and that's they love us on the Democratic side. And we get no love whatsoever from the Democratic Party, nor do we want it, okay? We're here to be honest actors and be principled. And for the first time on the national scene, I'm now seeing a Republican doing likewise. So it's huge. And if it leads to other people breaking ranks and saying, yeah, look, guys, he did it, I'm going to do it too. It's super obvious. By the way, So when you talk about the difference between Republicans and Democrats, this is exactly what we're talking about. If it was the Republicans, every Republican would have signed for impeachment already. And so and he's saying, well, I'm going to be principled and do it anyway. But why don't the Democrats do it? It's not partisanship. Like in some key issues, like the filibuster, et cetera, they play the same exact game. But on issues of holding the other party accountable, they do not play the same game. Republicans hold the other party accountable to an extreme degree, and in fact, often make up things to hold them accountable for the things that they didn't do. But in terms of the Democrats, they don't do likewise, because all they care about is raising money. And Pelosi's like, hey, we're raising a lot of money from Donald Trump, and oh my God, it might endanger my chances. And it's raising money and keeping their power. Oh, how's it going to play out for me in my election? And how's it going to play out in purple districts in their elections? How about you act out of principle for once in your life and stop making those calculations? Besides which, you're miserable at those calculations. When has Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic leadership ever gotten those calculations right? They lost 1,000 seats in 10 years trying to appease the Republican Party, and yet they learned nothing from it. And now Pelosi has been outflanked by a Tea Party Republican saying, my God, aren't you going to do anything? The Republican president clearly broke the law. Look, he didn't get into Nancy Pelosi's grill, and he didn't mention her at all. But the very fact that he's calling for impeachment and Pelosi is not should be deeply embarrassing to Nancy Pelosi and the entire Democratic Party leadership, who are so afraid of their own shadow that they're not even moving when even the Tea Party's ready to impeach Donald Trump. Or at least certainly maybe the most prominent congressman in the Tea Party is ready to impeach Donald Trump. As usual, embarrassing for the Democratic Party. But put aside politics, you got to do it. If you don't do it, you're saying for sure, especially with a Republican now coming out and saying it too, for sure the president is above the law if you take no action. You've got to take action now. By the way, we have a petition on this, tyt.com/impeach. And we didn't do that until the Mueller report came out. But the Mueller report came out, we read it the same way that Amash did. He lays out overwhelming evidence for obstruction of justice, and you would all, every single one of you watching this, whether you're Republican or Democrat or anything else, would all be in jail if you did those things, and you know it. We cannot let the president be above the law in this case. tyt.com/impeach. We'll put the link later in the